Let's do this.
School, in my opinion,
School, in my opinion, is the biggest fucking waste of time. It occurred to me the other day, I'm pretty sure I have a third grade education level. I haven't learned anything since I was a small child, you know? Now, I'll admit, some of that was my fault. Definitely can point the finger at the adult supervisors in my life, not just parents, all of them, top to bottom. They talked a lot about how I didn't achieve or live up to my potential. But did anyone really intervene? Was there really anyone around? No. Drinking and drugs and just having fun and ultimately just driving my life down into the dirt. That's what the education system was for me. It was a babysitter. It did nothing. It taught me nothing. And it let me get by cheating the system. Worthless.
was simply set up to program your entire existence. And the kids that figure it out when they're younger and they're going, what am I doing here? But in the old days, it was more about, or in the past, the history was, hey, you don't want to be stupid. You want to be left behind. You don't want to, what are you, dumb? You're not going to work. How are you going to make money?
No child left behind now. We don't leave nobody behind. One of my friends only got to high school because we had to plot and cheat to get him into high school. Every class. So we had to cheat just so he could get to high school. Every test. Everyone had different classes he was copying off of. We made sure we knew where to sit. We made sure we knew who was strong in those subjects because he had to have the best scores that he could get. And that was after cheating throughout all the year just to get him to that point, right? This was a big endeavor. Now they just pass kids for no reason. In retrospect, my friend wasn't ready to move on either. But the sheer amount of work and knowledge that went into getting him there was a Herculean task. And I'll have you know that when we graduated, he was the only student that was lower in GPA than me. That's right. Second from the bottom of the class. Because of that motherfucker, I helped cheat. If I hadn't helped him cheat, I would have been the lowest GPA. Because I only passed by beating their point scheme. That's the only reason I was able to get to the next grade. So, like I said, third grade education. Sad.
Money. How are you going to get an education? How are you going to get into college? That was the peer pressure from the system. That is all well designed. And if you really think about it, it's no different than a prison. You show up at a very ugly looking building. You bring your trays along to get your food. You sit in a cafeteria.
It's a fucking prison. School is a prison of sorts. Ran the same way.
Area style. You're in a classroom indoors for hours. No child, no human is supposed to live like that. Period. So they break down your natural instinct. They break down your ability to go out and create and learn.
Just hours and hours. It's literally, maybe it's because they're preparing you, like he's saying, for these mindless jobs where you're just flipping burgers. You're just, even in the office, you're just doing the form, fill out the form, check the email, delete the email, respond to this email, save this email to that box. Maybe I'll need that email in 50 years because all I've done is been stuck in a box like a little toy that's just wound up and just chittering around against the walls. Little performance monkey. But you can't ever get up and walk away. When you think you're done, they just wind you back up and let you start clapping again.
School is to me one of the meanest things you can do to a child and to any society. And then
my son was fortunate enough to have some pretty good schools. I think the rest of my children I will homeschool. I've decided that a long time ago.
And eventually, as time went on, you forced where the mother had to work and the father had to work. And so now you're breaking up the...
I don't believe in that, man. It's so terrible. Children need to be more with their families, you know. And sometimes we have you have sitters, you have support systems, you have people involved, but nothing beats having a parent that really cares about their child and their child's development, taking care of them. Like, there's no replacement for that. That's how it's meant to be. You're not supposed to be gone all day away from your children. I don't know who convinced you of that, right? Just be fucking picking berries with kids, and then part of the tribe or some of the animals may be off hunting, right? If you're a hunter-gatherers, probably fishing, trying to catch fish near your water source. But the children aren't, like, no one came and took the children and put them into boxes and told them how to think and what to think. Even even in the early days of America, schools were these collections of the locals who worked together, and you'd had several mothers watching over and guiding these children.
The parents, and you're allowing that to take over. And now it's like, oh, your kid can't keep up. Well, we just happen to have this little deal here with this company, and here's the good news. We can fix your kid with these fine drugs.
Jesus Christ.
Although we don't know what it's going to do in 10 years, but hey, he'll stick a little better with the program we're.
I don't know if they're still doing this. I'm assuming they're still doing this a lot. But I watched them drug the absolute kids in the 90s. Come to class trying to get a response out of them. We'd be hanging out at the playground, just wilding out, running around. And then you headed back to class, and your buddy's like, I gotta go to the office and take my medication. Bro, I was fucking crazy too. Mama, my parents just running around. There wasn't anybody around to be upset that I was crazy and put me on medication. I'm sure they'll make excuse. He had Tourette's. He was anxious. Bro, I went to his house. He ended up that way because of his parents. Come on, man. But even as a kid, I was like, this place is fucked up. It's a nice place, though. I was poor. I was one of the poor kids. So, like, going over to other people's houses. Oh, man. And as a kid, too, like when you're a poor kid, you think that people with money are happy. And then you go in their houses and you start seeing the fucking dysfunction painted on the walls. And you can slowly start to notice that it's just covered up with material possessions and pretty photographs. That's it. Still just a home of dysfunction. And I'll be honest, at 42 years old, 41 years old. Yeah. 41 years old, I've never met a family that didn't have some dysfunction. And I know there's probably some out there, some upper middle class family that's done a very good job for about 3 generations, just building up interconnectivity and actually trying to help and support the members that start to fall off. But even them, they usually have some drug addict uncle that's swept under the rug, or someone did something bad. All families have dysfunction. One of the best things people can do is to recognize all of that dysfunction so that they can start to process their dysfunction, right? Because when you feel like your dysfunction is special, then it's harder to deal with your dysfunction because you think it's insurmountable. Once you realize that all families have some measure of dysfunction, some of them a lot, and you see that all of those people still have to get on and do get on with their life, I think that makes it seem easier to, I think that was an important part of my development as a person. That's for sure.
You're putting in front of your child, and it's called a condition, but basically it's called the kid figured it out. The kid's really creative and knows they shouldn't be indoors learning this nonsense they're putting in front of them that brings you nothing. It doesn't teach you how to take care of one another. It doesn't teach you what to do if one of your parents pass away. It doesn't teach you anything if your family breaks up. It doesn't teach you how to lift other people up and how to create a village and how everyone should look at.
These are like deep life skills that used to be learned at home, that he's talking about. And he's right. They don't teach you that. And not only that, through the generations, we're losing that teaching at home because it's not being passed on.
After each other. That's the only thing we should be learning besides building and stuff like that. The rest is to program your life and to kill every single instinct that you have as a human, in my opinion. And this system's been enforced for a long time.
A long time.
What we'll learn in school is one thing, whether it's about the natives or whatever. We only learn what we were told. This is what it was. We didn't have any question. There was no question. This is what it is in the textbook. Who's writing the textbooks? Who's writing the textbooks? Who writes what the history is? I remember going to St.
If I remember correctly, I believe that's Ghislaine Maxwell's father, right?
Augustine, Florida. And I went to a fort there. And as I was walking, and before you go into the fort, you got to go through like this little tunnel area. And there's pictures of, I don't know what they are, Confederates or civil, but whatever military we had at that time or government we had at that time. And all you saw was all these little Indian native kids, like 30, 40 of them. And they all looked really traumatized.
Yeah.
You know, and it's basically like, whoa, you know, and then we were able to clothe them and then give them books and then teach them how to educate themselves. And it's like, oh my God, the way they taught us things, you look at those children's in their eyes and all they have is pure broken spirits.
That was probably very sad. Not to sugarcoat, like, the taking of America. And there was a lot of dysfunction in America at that time. It had already been ravaged by, like, a lot of diseases. But does that make the tragedy? You know, the tragedy of childhood in particular is just devastating. Because you could just be a child existing, just trying to live. But the people that you happen to have been born in, you know, it's just like getting a bad spawn, right? A bad random spawn. You spawned on the wrong server, and all of your leadership are the bad guys, you know. And then someone comes along and kills all those, and then you're traumatized. And then they're gonna take you and stuff you into little boxes and try to tell you what to think. Fucking nuts.
There's a lot of stuff that this whole system has to change. The whole system we have to stop giving into it and just change, or else I don't know where it's going, but we have no choice.
Where do you think that change starts?
The change starts with everyday people going, you know what? I'm a teacher, but I don't like the system that they put me in. This is not how, I don't like trying.
That's why I said I'm going to do whatever I can to build my life in a way where my children no longer go through that system. I don't believe in that system. They've got us so wrapped up in our day-to-day hamster wheels, it's almost impossible to keep track of what's even happening in the school board. Who's on your school board? Do you know? It's an elected position, you know? And people who don't have children get to have a say in that.
I like changing a child's life, but I don't like how they force me to shove this down their throat or go along these regulations or go to everything's comes from some higher tier government type of thing. So imagine if you started homeschooling your kids, and if you have a teacher education, or you have some type of outdoor, whatever it is.
You don't even need that. You know, I've been following a lot of the like AI frontier. You're gonna have super tutors at home. You focus on spending time with your child and developing who they are. All the education part, like the knowledge, the math, the sciences, those are going to be easily accessible in an educational format. There'll be hundreds of people with very low cost programs where you can help teach your kid. Not only that, there'll be people, if you want a human, just because you want a human, there'll be probably high cost human interactions if you want, because there's going to be so many people that can develop educational systems. AI is about to revolutionize the entire concept of learning. You know, if you're not paying attention to it, it's going to catch you off guard. But you no longer have to be bound by the same rules that they were, you know. But neither do the people who want to subvert what you think. So you're going to see a lot of stuff coming from them too. Because people with means are going to have more means. People without means can now do some things, but the people with means can do great big things, you know. And they can always shut off the lights. So
I would have paid to have my kid homeschooled from someone I know is learning something. They don't have to sit in a classroom. It starts with you pulling your kids out of school or creating a new alternate school. Do it at farms. Start putting farms. Start working kids with elderly somewhere where there's some type of guidance in between. There's just so many things. There's so many things that is so much easier than whatever system these kids are brought up in. And that's another thing, starting from school. If you started to learn rather than what happened in 1954, in the concert, whatever, that the kid could care less about. If you started teaching children about the human spirit and the power of inspiration and the
That's good. I do agree with Jim there, but I'll push back. History is important. The more you learn about history and you start paying attention, everything rhymes. Like it's this, because it's the same power structures trying to achieve the same goals. This is what I was talking about earlier, about the empire and their plans for Pax wherever they want to move the currency, for Pax America, or whether it's Pax Germania, or whether it's Pax Britain, or Pax Israel, or Pax China. That's what they want.
Power of the human mind and spirit, and how.
So you have to understand history. You have to understand history. So you can't just learn the human spirit. You want to know what the human spirit should be? You don't give up. You never take your eyes off the enemy. There's always a predator in the bush. You're just a simple monkey. Something always wants to eat you.
How it literally can heal people. It can empower people, and not for the bad, for the good, and fearless. We are designed perfectly, which blows my mind when people are.
Fear is an illusion.
They don't. It's all been.
It's a religious concept people really need to process. Fear is an illusion. I'm afraid.
Stripped out. There's no God. There's no this. There's no, propaganda. But at the end of the day, what's the voice that's talking to you inside? When you talk to yourself, what is that? Is that you just what is that when you feel something? You go, something's wrong here. Something. I have an uneasy. What is that? You start to learn how to navigate that. But in order to control another human being, you have to not give them that power, let them know they have that power. And when I go to what you would call a third world country, and you see a man, no gun, weighs 150 pounds at best, 6'5", and he's just holding a shawl and a stick, and he's facing snarling lions fearlessly. That's a pretty powerful human spirit right there. Fearless. Our whole lives, fears.
This makes me think of like Steve Irwin, right? Because this is that whole thing about like not fear being an illusion. We are an incredible species. And if we stop and examine situations, we can overcome almost anything. Animals behave in patterns that you can learn. There's no reason. Your fear is what betrays you. Your fear is what leads you to run when you should make yourself big. Fear, no, some part's knowledge. You have to have the knowledge, but to get to that, you have to overcome the fear. That knowledge has to be passed on, though. Otherwise, most people are just going to get eaten by the lion. But he is right. We have to teach fearlessness. Men should grow up. Jordan Peterson would say monsters. Warriors is what some people would call them. At least a warrior spirit. Our young men need to grow up and be fearless, especially when the world feels more uncertain and we don't always know what's going to happen in the future.
Beaten into us. And fear, it's just like Yoda says.
Fear is used to control us. The more fearless we are, the less control they can have over you.
Fear. Fear leads to the dark side. Always. I think there's...
He's like a human Gumby. His face is so expressionable. This makes me feel like I have a tiny face now. Oh no, do I have a tiny face?
So much more to learn. Hopefully I'm around to see a new generation of people tapping into that, especially as kids. Oh my God. Star Wars brings so much up. First of all, you have the sacrifice story in there. When Obi-Wan, who is the mentor of the good side, the Jedis, the ones that use the Force, their intuition, your soul, your intuition, and he's training, and he knows Luke.
He's not wrong here, but before he gets too deep into it, remember that you have to have the light and the dark side in order to balance the Force. You can't have all of that wisdom and then not enact Force when the time comes. You know, this is a great analogy for the some of the strikes. I don't know if I will, in the end, fully agree with the degree that we are involved in Iran. It definitely applies to Maduro. Boom, got it. Strike. That should be the philosophy. Strength, power. It has to be done. Do it. What is this? Go.
The next most powerful Jedi, the one that could change the world for the better because he's using the Force. That scene when he's fighting the monster Darth Vader and he's holding his own with him, but he sees Luke staring at him, and he stopped the fight, and he allowed himself to get taken out. But he waited till Luke was watching. And in moments like that, I mean, if you think about that, now Obi-Wan is more powerful on the other side, and he's able to guide Luke, who's still present here in the physical earth. However, you can't attack Obi-Wan now. You can't block him.
That's right.
From reaching Luke. You can't separate him because he's now part of him forever. And he constantly hears his voice when he's going in for the big moment. Use the Force, Luke. Use the Force, Luke. And that one blew my mind, because I think about just my dad or my mom or anyone that passed in my life. I feel more presence of my dad every single day than when he was living in front of me. Do I still want him here? Of course I do.
This is true. When my grandfather was alive, I think because of the physical distance between us, I often would just feel disconnected from him. And fortunately, I was able to see him several times in the last parts of his life. But now that he has passed, I do feel closer in spirit. I'm sad that I can't talk to him again, but I do have that sense that his spirit's with me. I'm not a Christian, so I don't necessarily believe in the whole pearly gate. He's just sitting there on a cloud, staring down. And honestly, if you know Christian theology, that's not even a real firm Christian belief. It's just something that some people believe Christians believe. But I do believe that his energy and spiritual essence is with me. Maybe always has been. Might be a part of bloodlines, genetic memories. I don't know, who knows, all the crazy shit. But I feel what Jim Bruer is saying here.
Do I still want to hold him? Do I still want to feel him? Do I still want to talk to him? Yes. But now that he's gone, I feel him every day. He's more, even my mom, there's times where I'll feel my mom and I'll feel the thing that'll come out of my mouth. There's something that, it's, that one really opened up a portal for me, that scene in Star Wars. Even in Star Wars 2, where it's the bad guy at the ultimate bad guy, when he's really trying to get Luke, and he's like, yes, feel your anger, yeah, yes. That's another thing where you go, wow, there really is a good side and a bad side. And when you're angry, it's like the bad side feeds on it, and it wants you to bring out the worst of you, the absolute worst of you. And it feeds on it like a cancer. Yoda. There's a great scene when Luke Skywalker is going into he's in training with the ultimate Jedi, which is Yoda. And he's got to go into a forest. Mm-hmm. And when he goes into the forest, he looks at Luke and his lightsaber and he goes, "You won't be needing that where you're going."
I just realized this is me just watching Jim Bruer tell me about Star Wars.
Because it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. And Luke starts walking through this forest, whatever, and Yoda's just, seeing how he's meditating, seeing how he's doing, and then all of a sudden, Darth Vader pops up in the forest, and Luke panics and takes out his thing, and then you see Yoda just, he still has fear. There's still fear inside him. Anger, fear. But the mind part blew me away. How powerful your mind truly. I always feel that movie's trying to tell us way more than we know.
There's a lot of Hollywood always. There's a lot of Hollywood always trying to tell us more than we know. I don't know if you know this, Jim, but they like to reveal themselves.
You don't need a lightsaber where you're going. All you need is your mind. If you're going to control, you go after children. You get them when they're young. Because if you can train them at that stage and control
got them all staring
their
at phones.
minds.
This is, bro, what is going on with the gambling and all the stuff being promoted to children? All these, like Poly Market and all these other things. Maybe you want to sponsor me. Go ahead and sponsor me. But like, what are we pushing on children? What kind of children are we trying to bring up? What's the end game here, right?
Their thoughts, their emotions, that's it. Now you can control them all the way into that in the world, and then their jobs and everything else they do, and how they vote, and who they should root for, and who should they. You have every part of their being. It is fascinating if you think about it that way, rather than just a free soul that's detached from all emotions of what you're trying to sell them and shove down their throat. Today's world, the Jedis, I'm going to say, are the...
Who is today's Jedi? What would I say? I don't even know. Do we even have any Jedi left? The Jedis today are quiet men. I don't say much, I'm definitely not. I'm too angry, right? They maintain their peace. They go about their business. God forbid you disturb that. You don't want to wake that up. Those are warriors out there, just quietly doing their job.
Everyday people who, within them, they're allowing their creator. They're spending more time to understand their creator, understand God, understand the spiritual essence and power inside of all of us. You don't have to go to a church. You don't have to join a particular sector. I'm not saying you don't, but the minute you that hits you going, wow, I am here for a purpose. I am part of the
I'm not a big fan of religion, but spirituality has such a large place in people's lives, and I adhere to the fact that America was founded on Christian principles and that Western ideals are founded on Christian principles. And those are mostly how I live my life. I don't murder, I don't steal, I don't, I think that many conservative values are very useful for a functional society. Simple things.
good spirit of life, where the
You need to have that
what are they called?
soul body connection.
The empire, it's all governments. Every single last
Every one
government,
of them.
every
government seeks to control.
last government is what is government? Nobody can define that. If you say, I don't, we don't need government. Well, at the end, for protection, what protection? What protection?
From other governments.
We're the ones going into other countries bombing them.
This is true.
We're the ones that have invaded
He's not wrong.
everywhere. So what
But-
protection?
As I've said throughout this, I know we're the ones doing the bad things. We go out, like he said, we bomb other countries and impose our will. But when you're on top of the mountain, it's a long way to tumble down. We don't want that.
What do you, for roads and for the, They've proven over and over and over and over through time. All they want is war, money, power, control. Period. They use media to sell their wars, to sell their agendas, to divide the human spirit, to
They use their banks to control the money.
categorize people who are still claiming to their category. The people I see are like the Jedis, a small percentage of people, not all of them. And
I want to be a Jedi.
and the empire is all that controls, all that so-called governs, all those people in power, all those people taking money for the love of money. They love money.
Money is interesting, right? Because like he's describing here, he separates money and power. Money is a tool. Money is a tool of power and control. The whole power and control thing. Yeah. So I don't know that money in itself. Now, when you hear that expression, like money is the root of all evil, well, that's because money is used for power and control.
The demon is their god. The piece of paper is their god. Their control, and they'll do anything for it. Anything.
See, he's not wrong here, but I don't think of people in power as doing this. They're not, and maybe they aren't. Maybe they're consumed with greed, but I think it's worse. I think that they accumulate the money for power. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, am I getting bleed through from that background music? That's going to be interesting to find out later.
They'll kill your kid. They'll poison you. They'll keep you alive, make you sick. It's just numbers to them. That's the empire. That's a vicious, cold, gutless, soulless machine. And it controls a lot of people.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Jim Bruer here. Tickets for my Find the Funny Tour 2026 starts in February, ends in May. You get all
I did not find the funny in that. That was just serious hard truths.
your tickets at jimbrewer.com. Don't go any other way, because it's going to take you in areas that you didn't want to be at. jimbrewer.com. Hit the link of what city you want to go to, and I'll see you on tour. Tickets are going fast, so please, before they sell out, get your tickets now. You know, Christmas present, a little present for somebody. I'm just saying, trying to hook you up. And there's VIP. Take a picture, first couple rows. Just saying, little snap back, boom, boom, me and you. All right, jimbrewer.com for tickets.